We begin today the Gemara on Daf Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis, towards the bottom of the page, closer actually to the middle. First word on the line is where it says Tzricha. V'tana didon. So the Gemara here is discussing the halacha of not delaying payment for a worker, and it brings three opinions regarding when it applies. The Mishnah here was mechadish that this halacha applies not only by a worker but also by a rental. If you rent animals or tools, it's one chiddush. Another chiddush the Mishnah said is that it also applies by a ger toshav, not only by a yid, but even by a ger toshav that keeps sheva mitzvahs b'nei noyach. But the Tana of our Mishnah actually held that there's a distinction between them. When it comes to the fact that it applies even for a rental, so over there we say that both what it says in Parshas Kiseitze, the mitzvah saseh of paying him on time, and also the lav that it says in Parshas Kedoshim, both apply. But when it comes to the fact that by a ger toshav it applies, for that the Mishnah said that it only applies regarding what it says in the mitzvah saseh that it says in Parshas Kiseitze, which is b'yoymai titin schare. But the lav that it says in Parshas Kedoshim by a ger toshav does not apply. So the Gemara now will explain why the Tana, and it was also before over here, Tana de Ber Rabbi Shmuel, that makes this distinction. Zok the Gemara, the Tana didon, the Tana of our Mishnah. How do we understand this? Because now here the Gemara's question is going to be based on what it brought before here, that there's a machlokes between the other two Tanaim that discuss this, the Tana of the Braise and Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, whether we have a Gzeira Shava here, Gzeira Shava of Sachir, which connects the psukim of Parshas Kedoshim to the pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze. So the question over here is, does the Tana of our Mishnah hold of that Gzeira Shava or not? Manavshach. Either way you look at it, it's not understood. If you learn Gzeira Shava to compare the psukim of Parshas Kiseitze to Parshas Kedoshim, then I feel a ger toshav nami. So then the halacha should be just like the Tana says that when it comes to a rental, that you over on all the psukim that it says in both places, the same should be applied by a ger toshav, that it should be over on all the psukim, because we connect the two parshas together. If he does not learn out the Gzeira Shava between them, so then beheime v'kelim minole. So why, when it comes to the rental of an animal or tools, there the Tana of Mishnah says that we do apply the lav that it says in Parshas Kedoshim, even though it's being learned out from Parshas Kiseitze, but nevertheless we do apply the lav of Parshas Kedoshim. Why is that if we don't have a Gzeira Shava? So the Gemara explains the reason of the Tanakam is as follows. The Tana of our Mishnah that is as follows: Lo'olam lo yalev sacher sacher. He does not hold the Gzeira Shava that connects the two parshas to each other. But v'shani hasam, when it comes to beheme and kalim by a rental, there it's different, because the amakra, even without the Gzeira Shava, the source of beheme v'kalim before the Gemara brought is from the word ba'artzacha that it says in Parshas Kiseitze. But now the Gemara says, according to the Tana of our Mishnah, we also have a source in the lashon of the pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim, because the pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim says, "V'lo yisalim pu'ula sache itcha ad baiker." Do not leave overnight the payment for a worker until the morning. So he darshans, kol shepu'ulasai itcha, anything that's working with you, that this lav applies. It's not only a worker, but anything that's with you, that's even a rental. If you have his animal or his tools, it applies as well. So in the lashon of the pasuk here, we see that the lav of Parshas Kedoshim does apply by a rental of animals or tools. If that's the case, use the same drasha, afil leger v'toshav nami, that I should say, pulasei itcha, sachir itcha, whoever's working with you. That would include even a guy as well. Why are we saying that it only goes on a yid, and by a ger toshav, you're not over on the lav of Parshas Kedoshim? And says the Gemara, Amakra, over there in Parshas Kedoshim, in the beginning of the pasuk it says Reyacha. The beginning of that pasuk is Leisashik es Reyacha, which means only your friend, another yid. Reyacha v'loy ger toshav. So the pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim is clear that it does not include the ger toshav. If this is based on the word Reyacha, afilu behem v'kelim nami. So then Reyacha means that it only applies to hiring a person, which is your friend, not a rental of animals or tools. And says the Gemara, no, but on the other hand, Oksiv itcha. While it says Reyacha, but it also says itcha, that anything you have from your friend with you, so it includes even animals or tools. So on one end, we have a word that is excluding. Reyacha is saying only a friend. And on the other hand, we have the word itcha, which is coming to add. So the Gemara asks, if that's the case, Mare Isa l'rabes beheme v'kelim. So why is it that you see that you're going to include beheme and kelim in this lav of the pasuk here, and l'haitzi ger toshav, and you exclude the ger toshav? Maybe you should say the other way around. And says the Gemara, no, mistavre, it's logical to say, beheme v'kelim havale l'rabbis, that when it says itcha, we include that it goes on a rental of animals or tools, shekein yeshnam b'chlal mamen reyacha, because when you're marbit from itcha, it's not a contradiction to the word reyacha, because even though it's not your friend, but it's your friend's tools or animal, so it fits together with the word reyacha. Ger Toishav, Einoi B'chlal Mamereyacha. However, when it comes to Ger Toishav, it's not the money of your friend, he's not your friend, he's a guy. So over here, he doesn't fit into the word Reyacha, so therefore Reyacha excludes the Ger Toishav. So this is the basis of the Tanakama, that when it comes to a Ger Toishav, you're not over on the lav of Parshas Kedoshim, but when it comes to Behema and Kalim, you are, because of the word Itcha here in this pasuk. Now the Gemara goes back to the other Tana that we had before here of the Braisa. The Tana Kama de Meachecha, the Tana Kama of the Braisa, the Gemara calls it the Tana Kama of Achecha, because he brought the source of the pasuk of Achecha, which is actually written in Parshas Kiseitze. And he brought from there that you see that you include a Ger Toishav, you include Behema and Kalim, and he learned that Gzeir Shave, that you're over on all the Yisurim of Parshas Kiseitze and Kedoshim for any of this. So according to that opinion, hi reyacha mayavdila. He doesn't hold of this drasha of reyacha to exclude a ger toishav. On the contrary, he has a gzeir shava to include a ger toishav. So then this extra word of reyacha here, what is it coming to teach? Answers the Gemara, humi bayele lekedetanya. He learns in the word reyacha, as we learned in the Braisa, reyacha v'lei amaleki. This mitzvah or this lav applies to your friend and not to an amaleki, which is any guy really. That's what it's coming to exclude. Frag the Gemara, amaleki. It's coming to say not an amaleki, ma'achecha nafka. That we learn out already from the word your brother that it says in Parshas Kiseitze. Why does it have to say in Parshas Kedoshim the word reyacha? And says the Gemara, there's two different things here. Chad lemishre oishkai. One is to allow oishkai, which means when you have a guy that worked for you and you're not paying him on time, that there's no law that applies here. And chad lemishre gzeilai. And the other one is coming to say that it's allowed to steal from a guy. Two different things. The gezel of a guy is allowed. You're not over on a lav, and the withholding the pay from a worker is allowed, or you don't, or at least you're not over on a lav. And the Gemara explains why it's necessary to have both of these drushes. It's richi. I have to tell you both of these points because the Ashmin and Gzeiloi, if the Torah would say that stealing from him is allowed, mishum delei tarach pay. That's because it's something that he didn't work for you. So if you take it from him, you could say that he didn't work for me, so if I take it from him, it's allowed. When you have a guy that worked for you and you're withholding pay, and he worked hard for you, so maybe the Torah does not allow. On the other hand, if the Torah would say that you don't have to, that there's no lav when you delay the payment for the guy, I would say this is something that you're not stealing out of his pocket. It's something that he didn't pay him yet. You're just withholding the pay from him. But Gzeila is even when something is in his pocket, so maybe here the Torah would not allow to take from him. So tzriche, therefore you need a pasuk reyacha and achecha, two different psukim to say that both are, that the law does not apply by a guy. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara goes back now to the opinion of Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda. Hi, loisalin pu'ula sachir itcha ad beiker mayavidle. The pasuk that it says here, loisalin pu'ula sachir itcha, what does he learn out from it? So the Tana, as we just said, learns out from here the fact that you're going to be chayiv on behema and kalim. That's what the word itcha over here means. But Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda holds that you're not over on this lav by behema and kalim. As the Gemara brought before in this Amid from the Braisa, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of this drasha. So what does he learn out from this pasuk? And says the Gemara, mi boyle l'ked Ravasi. He learns out from this pasuk what Ravasi said. Even if you hire someone just for harvest, and he's just cutting for you one thing of grapes, one piece of grapes, or eshkel echad shalanovim. Yeah, over mishum baltalin. You're going to be over right away on the lav of baltalin if you don't pay him for this. What Rashi here says is that the chiddush here is you may think that the whole lav of baltalin is if a person is working for you for the entire day, and then you have to pay him sometime during the next night, or if he worked you a whole night shift, you have to pay him sometime the next day. So the chiddush here is even if he's working for you just an hour or even a minute, so you have that day to pay him, and you shouldn't delay the payment past that. That's what Rashi here says. Taisus over here says that the chiddush over here is that it's not usual that you hire a person for such a small job to do a eshkel echad. So you would think that the mitzvah doesn't apply in such a case. It's a tiny small job that he did, and whenever you pay him, you'll pay him. So the pasuk is saying, no, you have to pay him on time as well, even for such a job. Sagt die Gemara weiter, according to the other opinion, where do we see this idea? That for any small job, you also have to pay on time. When the pasuk says the reason why you have to pay him on time, because the worker is his soul, he's relying on this. What does this mean? So the Gemara actually teaches what this means is davar ha'maisa nafshei alav. This means anytime he does work and it's something that he's giving his life for it, he's dedicating himself to the work. It doesn't make a difference if it's a big job or a small job. He worked for you. You have to make sure to pay him on time. According to the other opinion, according to Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, what does he learn out from this reason that the Torah here gives? You already learned out this idea that you have to pay even for a small job from the other pasuk. What he learns from this brayse is, from what it says here in the brayse, we learn out to what extent the Torah punishes someone that doesn't pay on time. What we learn from this is, this worker, he's doing a job for you outside on a construction site, and he goes up on a ramp and he's risking his life. Or v'nitla be'ilon, he goes up on a tree and he hangs from a tree and he's risking his life. His life is in danger. Why is he doing this? Isn't it because he's relying on the pay? So therefore you should pay him on time. And if you're not going to pay him on time, so here this is a continuation according to Rashi, Davar Acher. Another pshat for this. This is a continuation from the Braisa before, but it's really also a continuation to the point that the Gemara is trying to say over here, to what extent the person gets punished if he doesn't pay on time. And the pasuk says on this, Ve'elov hu noises nafshay. What does this mean? Kol hakovish schar sachir, the person that holds back pay of a worker, ki'ilu neitel nafshay mimeno. It's as if the soul is being taken away from him. Now, whose soul is being taken away? So here the Gemara brings two opinions. Rav Huna and Rav Chisda argued what the Braisa means to say. Chadoma nafshe shel gazlan. One opinion is that this actually goes on the nefesh of the employer, the one that's stealing, the one that's not paying. That's what it's saying is that your nefesh, the Eibush is going to take away the person of the nefesh of the person that did not pay. Chadoma nafshe shel nigzal. Another opinion is that the Braisa meant to say, Kilu noitel nafsha, you're taking away the life of the worker, the nigzal, the one that you're not paying him. So the Gemara explains the sources of these two opinions. Mandama nafsha shel gazlan, the opinion that says that the pasuk is saying that if a person withholds pay from the worker, that Hashem takes away the life of the employer, the gazlan, because the chsiv, we see this in another pasuk. The pasuk says, Al tigzal dol, do not steal from a poor person, kidalu, because he's poor. Val tadaka oni bashar, and don't oppress a poor person in the gates in your city. Uksiv, and then there the pasuk continues and says, this is all in Mishlei there, the pasuk says, Ki Hashem yarev rivam, Hashem fights their fight, v'kava as kiveyem nafesh, and Hashem steals, takes away the one that takes away from them, the one that steals from them, Hashem takes away their soul, their life. So you see here in this pasuk that the pasuk is saying that if you withhold pay from someone, you steal from your money, Hashem takes away this person's soul. Now, Mandama, the other opinion that says nafshay shel nigzal, that by holding back pay of a worker, you are taking away the life of the worker. So there's another pasuk where we see that it says this. The pasuk says, "Kain orches kol betzei batza." This is the ways of a person that steals from someone. Es nefesh balav yikach. You're taking away the life of that person, the owner of this money, that you're stealing the money from him. So you see, so over here as well, when it says elav u'noisas nafshay, nafshay refers to the nefesh of the worker that you're taking away when you withhold his pay. Now the Gemara explains, "V'idach nami." The other, according to the other opinion, haksiv es nefesh balav yikach. It says here clearly that when you steal, you're taking away the life of this worker, of the owner of this money. So why doesn't he dash in the pasuk before this way as well? So the Gemara says, no, but all of the hashta. He understands actually that this pasuk is not referring to the person that you stole the money from. It's referring to the Gazlan himself that's now possessing the money in his hands. He's not the true owner of the money. But it calls him Ba'alav. He has the money now in his hands, and the pasuk says Hashem will take away his life. And v'hidach nami, according to the other opinion, haksiv v'kavas keveyem nefesh, the pasuk says that if you steal from someone, Hashem takes away the life of the gazlan, his nefesh. So why doesn't he explain the pasuk before according to this? So he answers and says, no, actually you can explain this pasuk here also differently. Ma tam ka'omar. The pasuk is explaining the reasoning. In other words, like this: Ma tam kavas kaveyem. Why is it that Hashem steals? If you steal from someone else, Hashem steals and takes away from you. Mishum donat lo nefesh. Because you took away his life. When you steal from someone else, you're taking away his life. Therefore, Hashem takes away the Gazlan's life as well. So the term nefesh over here does go back on the gazlan. It's giving the reason why Hashem takes away the life of the gazlan, because when you steal from someone, you're taking away his nefesh. Okay, now the Gemara continues, but we had in the Mishnah, Ein Mesai Bizman Shetovai. This whole isser of delaying payment for a worker is only if the worker demanded you should pay him. Loi Tovai, but if you didn't ask for pay yet, Ein Over Olav. You're not going to be over if you don't pay him on time. Tana Rabbanan, in the Brisa, we learned more details about this. The pasuk says, "Leisalam pula sacher." You should not delay payment of your worker. Yachal afilu loi tovai. I would think that includes even if the worker didn't ask for his pay yet. Talmud leimar itcha ledaitcha. So the pasuk here says, "Leisalam pula sacher itcha with you," meaning he notified you. He let you know, I'm expecting to pay. Yachal afilu ein loi. I would think you're over on this iser even if you don't have what to pay. Talmud Laima, itcha sheyesh itcha. The money is with you. You have money for him to pay him, and you're still not paying him. That's when you're over on the lav. I would think that you're over on the Isser even if you transfer the payment to a storekeeper or to a money changer. This was mentioned in the Mishnah, as we'll see soon more details about this, when a person tells the worker that you can go to the grocery and take food on my account and that will be your pay. Or to a money changer, take money from him and I'll take care of it. So you gave over the pay to someone else, and then he doesn't get paid from that from the chenveni. He doesn't get anything from him that he doesn't want to give him. So you would think that the employer is over on this. Talmud Lema itcha. You're only over if the deal now still remains with you, that he's trying to demand payment from you, from the employer. Not if you transfer the payment to a storekeeper or to a money changer. So you see over here all the different exceptions when you get to when you're over. Just time to mention in connection to what the Gemara here says, that you only over if you demand the pay, if the worker demanded this. The Rebbe spoke about this Indian, about B'yom Etit and Schara in connection to the Gula, in connection to Mashiach, that we're doing our Avodah in there in this world, and David has to pay us in time. If he doesn't pay us in time, David fulfills the mitzvahs that he gives Yidden. And if you saw B'yom Etit and Schara, so why isn't Mashiach coming yet? If we did our Avodah, we completed our Avodah already. You see over here in the Gemara, when are you over on this Isser? When you demand the pay. That's one of the reasons why it's so important to demand that the Eibusher should bring Mashiach and redeem us, and pay us back for what we did, because then we cause the Eibusher to fulfill the mitzvah to actually redeem us from Galus. Let's continue inside. So now, the Mishnah that said this halacha, a person that transferred the payment to a storekeeper or a money changer, so now the employer is not going to be over if he does not get that pay. So the Shaila was asked about this. The worker, could he go back now to the employer if the storekeeper is not giving him the money? Could he go back to the employer and get the pay from him? Rav Shesha says, Ein chayzer. Once the deal was made that he should go and get his pay from the storekeeper, he can't go back and demand the pay from the employer. Rabbi says chayzer. Rabbi says no, he could go back to the original to his employer. It's a long thesis here about this machlokes here in the Gemara, because it's not clear exactly in which case they're arguing. Because if it's a case where it was very clear, the worker said, okay, I'm Michael, you don't have to pay me anymore for the work, I'll go to the storekeeper and he's going to pay me. If it was a very clear agreement, there wouldn't be any argument about this, whether you can go back to the original employer. He was Michael. So Taisa says it has to be a case where it wasn't clear that he was Michael. He made up with him that I'm not going to pay you, you're going to go to the storekeeper to pay you. And it wasn't a clear agreement, so it's not clear if it was Michael or not. So over here in this case is where they're arguing. There's a few pshatim here in Taisus about this actually, but this is one of the pshatim here in Taisus. So the Gemara here brings from what it says, Amar Rabbe Mino Aminullah. So from where do I know that I'm right, that he could go back to the original employer, Midiktani? So let's look what it says in the language of the Mishnah that we just quoted. What it said is that Eina Oiver, when you transferred the pay of the worker to the storekeeper, so if he doesn't get paid on time, the employer is not going to be over. So what is a mashma that? Eino over olav. Mever huduloyovar. The lav, you're not going to be over on the lav. Ha mehed hadar. But it sounds like, on the other hand, though, he could come back to you and demand pay from you if he's not getting it from the storekeeper. You're not going to be over if you don't pay him, but he still can come back. But the Rav Sheshes says there's no raya from that language of the Mishnah. My eino over. What does the Mishnah mean when it says eino over? It means eino b'toides laver. It's impossible for you to be over anymore because now that's it. Your responsibility of payment does not exist anymore. You transferred the payment to someone else, so he can never come back to you. So you're not going to be over. It's not possible to be over anymore. Talk to Gemara boye minei merav Sheshes. Shaila was asked from Rav Sheshes kablonus. Over all of Mishul Baltalin, I ain't over Mishul Baltalin. A kablon. This is a worker that's not working by the time, whether for the day or for the week or for the hour. He's working on a job, on a specific project, and when the project is done, so then his job is done. So, for example, he's building. He's taking a material. You're giving him raw materials, and he's building you a piece of furniture. So the question is, when he's finished his job, are you over on Baltalin if you don't pay him that day or that night when he finished? Oh, so the Gemara here is going to give a reason. Let's see the reason that the Gemara gives here. We had to say a similar shaila. The Gemara brought this up in Bava Metzia as well, but let's see the reason the Gemara gives here. Do we say, what's the deal of the payment when it comes to this worker that's working for a specific project? Do I say, uman kaine b'shvach keli? What happens here really is that this craftsman is getting raw materials, and then he takes these raw materials and he turns it into a beautiful piece of furniture, which enhances the value of these raw materials. If the raw materials were worth $50, now that it turned into a beautiful piece of furniture, it's worth $150. So now that enhancement of value belongs really to the craftsman. He created it. He made this into now this beautiful piece of furniture. It belongs to the craftsman, and when he returns it to the owner for the pay, he's really selling him this shvach, this new enhancement. It's really just like a sale. And if that's the case, v'halvahi, even if you're not getting paid on time, he owes you money for a sale. So over here, the law of not paying a worker on time does not apply. Not paying a worker on time is for a worker. But over here, by a person that's doing a project and you're giving him back this improved, this enhanced piece of furniture, it's like you're selling him an object by selling. If he doesn't pay you, so okay, so he owes you the money, but there's no lav here. Or perhaps ein uman kaine b'shvach keli. No, even though he took the raw materials and he enhanced it and he turned it into a beautiful piece of furniture, it's not like now this enhancement is your value that you're selling him. No, it's his material that you did the job for him, and he has to pay you for the job. It's no different than any other worker that's paying that's paying you for the time, and here he's paying you for the project, but the lav should apply as well in this case. That's the reason the Gemara gives here. So Tosfos, all the Rishonim bring up that the Gemara brought up this shaila in Gemara and Bava Metzia, and there the Gemara does not say l'chatchila this reason. There the Gemara says, even without this reasoning, there's a svara to say that the lav should not apply by a person that's working for a project, and the reason is that maybe you could say the whole lav of not paying on time is only when a person is working by time. If he's working for the day and he finished the day, so then you have to pay him the next night. A person that works on a job, since it's not an agreement that's connected to any time, so maybe there the lav does not apply. So over there the Gemara says the shaila without this svara here. Okay, Amalu Rav Sheshes. So Rav Sheshes answers, Oiver. Yep, by a kablan with the job, with the project, when it's done, you have to pay him on time, you are going to be Oiver. Fragt the Gemara, but Vatanya, in a brayso we learned regarding this case of a kablan that ain't Oiver, that in such a case you're not going to be over if you don't pay him on time. And says the Gemara, Hassam, that brayso is talking about Shem Cho, Eitzel Chemveni, Veitzel Shulchani. Over there, the reason he's not over is because the brayso is talking about a case where he transferred the payment to a storekeeper or a money changer. And that brayso is not talking dafka about a kablan, it's talking about any worker, as we said before, when you gave it over to someone else, so then the employer is not going to be over. Sagt the Gemara, name Messiah. Shall we say we have a raya to Rav Sheshes from the Mishnah in Bava Metzia? It says there, Hanoisen Talisa lo uman. A person gave his garment to a uman, to a craftsman, to a tailor. Gamra, he finished the job with the garment. Vaidiyai, and he let the owner know that the job is done. Come pick it up. So even if 10 days pass and the garment is still sitting by this tailor and you never picked it up and you never paid him, you're not going to be over on the fact that you delayed paying him. Why? Because your garment is still there. He has your garment in his possession as a collateral, so even if you're not paying him, but if you're not going to end up paying him, he's still holding on to your garment. But if now you picked up your garment, he gave it back to you in the middle of the day, when it's sundown, you are going to be over on the lav of Baltalin. Okay, so you see pretty clearly like what Rav Sheshes said. If you're going to say when a tailor does a job in your garment and he enhanced your garment, so now he raised the value and he's really just selling you back that value when you're paying him for it. So then, am I over? Why would you be over on Baltalin? This is not a agreement of a worker. It's like a person that's selling you something, and by a sale, Baltalin doesn't apply. So you see here clearly that the Isra of Baltalin applies even in this case. Rav Mari says in the name of Rav Kahane, or the son of Rav Kahane, he says, no, it's a different case over there. It's not necessarily a garment that the tailor or this person is improving it. It's not a tailor. We're talking about the garde, the sarbala. The sarbala. We're talking about this thick garment that has to be combed. The material of it has to be
Hairy. It's a hairy coat.
What?
Hairy. Like hair.
A hairy garment that has to be combed down and softened. So this is something which does not enhance it. It doesn't raise the value of it. So therefore over here you can't say that it's like a sale, that he's selling you back the enhancement of it. It doesn't get enhanced. Okay, but the Gemara asks him that. Why not? Why is he giving this person this garment to do what with it? He's combing it to soften it. If so, you take this hairy garment and you soften it, that is actually the enhancement. For some people, if it's softer, it has more of a value, so you are paying him for the enhancement of it. And says the Gemara, no, so this is a different case. That price or that Mishnah, what it's talking about is the agre minei. What did you hire this person? What is he doing for you? Levatushi, to tread on it. Now, these garments, after the tailor or a weaver finishes weaving a garment, so then afterwards it's placed in water with certain chemicals, and you have to tread on it to soften the material of it. So now over here, what was he hired to do? Ubacha b'masa. Every time he treads on it, every time he steps on it, he's being paid one ma for it. Okay, so over here, he's not being paid as a kablon for a specific job that's going to be done, or as a schiris for time. It's the action. Each time he picks up his foot and he steps in it, so you get 10 cents for each time you step on it. So therefore over there, it's not at all a kind of deal when it's not a schiris, it's not a kablin. So therefore in this case, it doesn't make a difference. Whether there'll be an improvement when he steps in it, whether there won't be any improvement he steps, it doesn't make a difference. He's just getting paid for the action, for picking up his foot. So therefore in such a case, there's no Isra of Baltalim. Okay, the Gemara goes back to the Mishnah. Zok the Gemara, it said in the Mishnah, Sachir bizmanoi, when it comes to a worker, if it's within the time when the employer is supposed to pay him, so then if the worker comes and claims that he didn't get paid yet, nish bavanoitol v'chulo. He can swear that he didn't get paid yet, and he'll collect the payment. But then the Mishnah went on to say v'chulu, that if it's after the time that he was supposed to get paid, and now he still comes and claims that I didn't get paid yet, he's not going to be trusted to swear that the employer didn't pay him yet. So fragt the Gemara, Sacher, so this worker here, Amai tekinele rabbanol mishtabe v'shakel. Why did Chachamim institute that he can swear and collect pay with this? Usually, you don't find such a thing. When a person claims that someone owes you money, so you have to prove that he owes you the money. You can bring Eidim, some proper proof. And also, minat Torah, anytime a person swears, it's usually to swear to pati yourself, to absolve yourself from paying. Here, this is obviously a special takana from the Chachamim, that a worker can swear, and without bringing any additional proof, he can collect the money. Why is that? Amar Rav Yudah Mashmuel, halachis gedailis shanukan. These are very great halachas that we learned here. So this sounds like what he's saying is that this is halacha l'Moshe Misinai. So the Gemara asks on this: is this true? Hani hilchasininu? Are these over here part of halacha l'Moshe Misinai? It's not. The Gemara uses here a lashon rabim because this shvuah that's mentioned over here is also mentioned in the Mishnah and Shavuos, along with other shvuas that Chachamim instituted that you swear. So the Gemara is asking on this: are these a halacha l'Moshe Misinai? It's not. These are Chachamim instituted in these cases that this person can swear and collect money. These are very great things that Chachamim instituted here to allow this person to swear to collect his money. So the Gemara asks on this expression as well, that Gedailos, you're saying that these are great things Chachamim instituted. Does that mean that there are other things that Chachamim instituted that are smaller than this? What else is there that's less? There's a bunch of different cases, as I mentioned, in Shavuos that Chachamim instituted, you can swear, and they're all part of the same great takana. So why is it saying Gedailos? These are very strong and established institutions that Chachamim instituted. There's a very, very solid reason to this. And the Gemara explains what the reason over here is. Chacham did something very powerful. Because really, Shvuah de Balabaisi. In this case, when there's an argument between the employer and the employee, whether he paid him yet or not, so really the one that should have the right to swear, to pater himself, is the employer, the balabas. Now, Vakrua Rabbana l'shvuah de balabais, Chachamim uprooted that shvuah that the balabas does not have the option to swear, and instead v'shadyua asacher, and they gave the right to swear to the worker that he could swear and collect the money. And what was the reason for this? Mishum kedei chay of the sacher, because the worker is relying on this payment for his livelihood to live, and therefore Chachamim gave him the ability to swear that he wasn't paid yet to be able to collect his money. Now, just a shot over here, the Taisus points out that it says here that the one that should really be swearing is the balabas, the employer. But not necessarily. It depends what the case is. If it's a kaifer hakoil, if he's saying that I paid it all to you, so then there's no shvuah that the balabas would swear. If it would be a case of maide b'miktsas, then menatayre, the balabas would swear. So what the Gemara is saying is, between these two, the worker and the employer, who amongst them would there be any shvuah that would apply menatayre? Only to the employer, not to the worker. And Chachamim came and uprooted that and said that no, the worker has the right to swear, and without any additional proof, he can collect his pay, because they wanted him to have his livelihood. Yeah, either way, he swears correct. But the Gemara does not accept this pshat. Frek the Gemara, mishum kedei chay of the sacher, because of the livelihood of this worker, mafsadne le balabayis, are we causing a loss to the balabas? If the Torah says the right of swearing is to the balabas, and we have the rule of amitz mechaveri olavarai, you can't just take money out of someone because you swear so. Then here we're going to make this exception to allow him to swear to take money out and cause a loss to the balabas. Answers the Gemara, yeah, because balabai is gufei nichale the mishtabah sacher. The balabas, the employer, is happy that we're giving this right to the worker that he could swear and then collect his money and he can take. The reason is so that he should have an easy time finding workers to hire. If any worker knows that if there's going to be an argument between me and the employer, whether he paid me yet or not, and I'm not going to be trusted, and my shvuah is not going to be trusted, he's not going to want to work for anybody. No one's going to trust me. So the employer himself wants that the worker should be trusted with his shvuah. Well, if you're using that logic, it works the other way around as well. The worker is actually happy that we should trust the balabas to swear that he paid to pater himself. Why? So that the employer should want to hire. If any employer knows that he's never going to be trusted, he's not going to want to hire anybody. If there'll be an argument later, I'm not going to be trusted. So the worker wants the balabas, the employer, to be trusted. So the Gemara says no, because al karche agar, the balabas, whether he's going to be trusted or not, he's going to have to hire workers. He has work to be done. Yes, he's a construction site, whatever it is, he's going to have to hire workers either way. So the Gemara says if that's the case, sachanami bal karche yisker. So you could say the same thing regarding the worker. Either way, whether he's afraid that he will be trusted or not be trusted, he's going to have to go and work because he has to make a living. So this whole svara that we're saying here, that there's a reason more to allow, to trust the worker for his livelihood more and to cause a loss to the balabas is not a good svara. So Ella, the Gemara says that the reason why Chachamim took the shvuah away from the employer, the balabas, and gave it to the worker is a different reason. Ella balabayes tarad b'poilim. When it comes to the balabas, he has more than one worker. So he's so busy with workers that he can make a mistake regarding when he says, I paid you already. He could be paid someone else. So therefore, we don't trust the balabas. We dafka trust the worker more than we trust the balabas. Taisus over here says this goes so far. Gemara considers this to be like a situation where a person says, Eini yedeya. What happens in a case where there's a loan and the balabas or the person agrees, yeah, I borrowed the money, but I don't remember if I paid back or not. And the other person says, I know for a fact you didn't pay me back. So of course, in such a case, everybody agrees that the one that says, I know for a fact you didn't pay me back is believed. And this is not even the one that says, Bari Vishem Alav Bari Yodif. If in such a case, when everybody is agreeing that there was a loan here, and in this case, what are we talking about? That everybody agrees that he worked for him. If there's going to be an argument whether he paid or not, what the Gemara means to say is he's tarad b'payalim, and even if he's arguing that I paid you already, we consider it as if he's saying, I don't know, because he could be confusing one worker with another. And the worker knows it's his paid. He's saying I did not get paid yet, so we trust him. If that's the case, we should allow the worker to collect even without demanding him to swear about this. So Taisus explains this. This is where we see this goes so far. We consider the balabas like a person that's saying any yedeya. So if so, you should be able to take even without a shvua. And says the Gemara, Kedei lahafiz daite shel balabayis, is in order to appease the balabas, that in the end of the day, he is standing and screaming that I paid you already, even though we know that he could be confused, but nevertheless, in order to calm him down, we have the worker swear. So why is this the takana the Chachamim instituted? We could do something else to prevent, to avoid this problem here. V'neisav le be'edim. Why don't we just make the following institution? That anytime an employer pays his worker, he has to have edim present when he pays him. And then there'll be no arguments. If there's edim that he paid him, we'll know that he paid. If there are no edim that he paid, so then we know to trust the worker that he didn't pay him. So instead of having him swear, we could just make the institute, there should be edim there. And says the Gemara, milsa. No, that's too much of a bother. You tell the balabas every time you have to pay your worker, you have to bring 2 witnesses and make sure they're kosher witnesses to be there. It's too much of a bother. Maybe we should institute something else. How about if we tell the employer, pay your worker in the morning before the job is done? Pay him in the morning before the job is done, and then you know that's it. That it's paid already, and therefore, if the worker comes and says that he did not get paid, he's not going to be believed. If you worked there, it must be that you got paid before the job. And says the Gemara, no. Both the employer and the worker do not want that they should do such a thing. That you should get paid before the job. Obviously, the employer doesn't want to pay him before. He doesn't have the money now yet. He doesn't want to pay him before the job. And the worker as well, he doesn't want the money now. He might lose the money during the day. He wants to get paid in the end of the job. So that you can institute that. Now the Gemara asks over here on the whole point that we said, that we trust the worker and not the employer, because the employer is confused with different workers, but the employer, the employee that is, the worker himself, he's trusted. If that's the case, even when there's an argument between the employer and the worker regarding what was the price set, over there we should also trust the worker. Allah, Metanya, why did we learn in a brayso that that's not the case? If the craftsman says that the price set was that you're going to pay me 2, and the owner, the employer, says like no, the deal was I'm only going to pay you 1 coin. So there's an argument of the pay. What's the halacha? If the worker wants to collect what he claims, the amount he claims, he's going to have to prove it. And if he can't prove it, so then in this case over here, this is a Bava Metzia. The employer, the owner, is going to swear, to pater himself. So over here, why aren't we applying the same logic as we said before? That we trust the worker more than the employer. The employer is confused with other workers. Answers the Gemara, no, when it comes to the price set, that's actually something that people remember what the price is. Who he paid, he can get confused between one worker and another. But the price, that's something a person remembers. Going back again to what we said before regarding the fact that a balabas is confused with his workers and therefore he could confuse one worker with another. Now, if so, going back to what it said in our Mishnah made a distinction that it depends when the worker is coming and claiming that he wasn't paid yet. Is he coming within the time when he was supposed to get paid or after the time? The Mishnah said if it's already after the time, the next day, then we don't trust the worker anymore. But the question is, why not? If the point is that we don't trust the employer because he's confused who he paid, so even if the worker claims he didn't get paid later on, after the time when he should have paid him, he also should be trusted with a shvua. Alamet nan. Why does the Mishnah say, when it's after the time that he should have gotten paid, here he can't swear and collect his pay. Answers the Gemara, here the reason is because if it's after the time that you should have gotten paid, we have an assumption that the balabas will not want to be over the lav of baltolin to delaying the payment. But didn't you say that the balabas is confused? So maybe he paid someone else. He doesn't want to be over the lav, but he's still confused with another worker. Answers the Gemara, when does he get confused and he doesn't pay so much attention which worker it is before the time of the chiyuv? When it comes a time when he has to pay already, he pays attention to see exactly who worked for me today and who I have to pay in order to make sure that I'm not going to be over on the lav. And he remembers, and therefore he knows that I paid you on time because I was specifically paying attention not to be over the lav. Okay, let's just finish the Indian over here. So the Gemara asks on this, if that's the basis why we believe the employer, because he doesn't want to be over the lav, so if so, the worker is coming and claiming that he was not paid. Are you suspecting him of lying, that he was paid and he's just stealing and he wants to demand payment a second time? If the whole point there is the lav, he doesn't want to be over in Baltalim, but the worker, we shouldn't suspect him that he wants to steal. Answers the Gemara, there's a difference. Hasam trei chazaki. When it comes to believing the employer, there are two reasons why we believe he's saying the truth, as the Gemara will explain. Over here, regarding the worker, there's a good reason, but only one reason why we would believe him. What's the difference? When it comes to the employer, there are two chazakis that what he's saying is true. One is the point as we mentioned, the aim balabais over mishum baltalin, because he probably paid him on time. He doesn't want to be over on the lav. So if the worker comes to demand the money after that time, he probably paid him already. And another is the ain sache mashes chare. When a worker has done his job, he usually doesn't wait to get paid till later. He probably demanded pay on the time when he's supposed to get paid. So there's two reasons to assume that he got paid on time. So if he comes later, there's reason not to believe him. But v'hacha, on the other hand here, regarding believing the worker, there's only one reason to believe him, because there's an assumption that he's not stealing. It's a reason, but it's only one reason, in contrast to the balabas, to the employer, that there's two reasons to believe him, and therefore, in this case, after the time when he should have gotten paid, it's the balabas that's believed that he paid him already.